Welcome to Monk's Temple. You've been looking for peace in all the wrong places. You were told it comes from fixing every problem, managing every detail, keeping your world perfectly under control. But if that were true, why are you so tired? Why does your mind stay tense, your chest feel tight, your thoughts race even when you've done everything you can? The truth is simple, but it changes everything. Peace begins when you accept what you cannot control. For centuries, this has been shared not as a nice saying, but as a real path to inner calm. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's letting go of battles that were never yours to win. As you hear this, something inside will start to loosen. Your thoughts will slow. The weight you've carried for years will begin to lift. You'll feel a quiet strength growing, not the strength of force, but the strength of release. The kind that appears when you stop fighting life and let it flow. By tomorrow, life will feel lighter. Situations won't shake you so easily. People won't drain you the same way. Your peace will no longer depend on perfect outcomes, because it will come from within. Built on this knowing, you are free the moment you stop trying to control what was never yours. This isn't just an introduction. It's an opening. A shift. A return to a peace you may have forgotten you could feel. Are you ready to step into it? Let's begin. You've been chasing peace in all the wrong places, trying to hold life together with force, effort, and constant control. But now that you've taken this first step, accepting that peace begins only when you stop trying to control what cannot be controlled, something inside you is shifting. A quiet awareness is rising. The kind that makes you look at the world differently. You start to notice how much of your stress hasn't come from life itself, but from your attempts to manage every moment before it even happens. A softer question forms: if peace comes from letting go, how do I live in a world that constantly pushes me to interfere? This leads to the next part of the journey. A part most people never learn, but deeply need. There is a delicate strength in knowing when not to intervene. A power many overlook, because the world trains us to believe we must always force, fix, correct, and shape every situation. Since childhood, you were taught that success comes from taking charge, stepping in quickly, controlling the outcome. Yet, the more you try to force life into your preferred shape, the more resistance you meet. Things unravel. People pull away. Situations become heavier. Your mind grows louder. The exhaustion you feel isn't from life itself. It's from the constant interference you've been taught to call responsibility. But there is another way of moving through the world. A way that brings far more peace. Learning the art of stepping back. Not walking away. Not ignoring. Not abandoning. But stepping back just enough to let life breathe. When you stop interrupting every moment, when you stop forcing every outcome, when you stop trying to fix everyone's emotion, something remarkable begins to happen. Situations reveal their natural rhythm. People show who they really are. Problems solve themselves in ways you could never have imagined. You start to see that life has its own intelligence, one that only becomes visible when you stop crowding it with your anxious attempts to control everything. This kind of non-interference is not laziness. It is not apathy. It is one of the highest forms of wisdom. It requires patience, self-awareness, and emotional strength. It requires you to trust that not every moment needs your hand on it. It asks you to understand that your presence, your calm, your grounded energy can influence a situation more deeply than your actions ever could. Think about the moments when someone opened up to you only after you stopped trying to fix them. Think about the arguments that softened only when you stopped forcing the conversation. Think about the stressful situations that resolved themselves when you finally stepped back and breathed. These are not accidents. They are proof that harmony often appears when pressure disappears. One of the greatest misunderstandings in life is believing that caring means controlling. Many people interfere because they think their involvement is necessary for things to go well. They jump into other people's emotional storms because silence feels uncomfortable. They rush to solve someone's problem because uncertainty scares them. They try to direct every detail because stillness feels unsafe. But when you step too quickly into someone's pain, you can unintentionally take away the moment they need for growth. Your interference might solve the problem temporarily, but it also blocks the lesson. People need space to feel, to process, to unravel, to rebuild. When you interfere out of anxiety, fear, or discomfort, you take away their chance to discover their own strength. And what about the interference you direct at yourself? You judge your feelings before they've even formed. You criticize yourself the moment a thought doesn't match your expectations. You rush to fix your sadness, your anger, your confusion, instead of allowing these emotions to exist. This inner interference creates more tension than anything in the outside world. When you fight your own emotions, they tighten. When you allow them, they loosen. Every emotion is like a wave. It rises, crests, and falls. It only becomes destructive when you try to stop it mid-rise. The moment you stop trying to interfere with your inner world, your emotions begin to move through you more freely. They lose their intensity because you are no longer giving them resistance to push against. There's also the interference that comes from believing others must behave the way you think they should. You hold unspoken expectations for how people ought to speak, respond, think, or feel. You correct their tone, their choices, their timing. Not because you're trying to harm them, but because somewhere inside you, control feels safer than openness. Yet, the more you push people into your idea of how they should be, the more distance you create. People feel judged, restricted, unseen. And ironically, the more you try to control them, the more they resist. Letting go of this kind of interference is not giving up your voice. It's giving others the space to be themselves. It's allowing relationships to breathe instead of suffocating them with tension. It's realizing that acceptance creates deeper connection than correction ever could. Stillness is not something most people are comfortable with. But stillness is where clarity lives. When you stop interfering with every moment, life begins to reveal details you never noticed. You start seeing patterns in people's behavior. You begin to understand unspoken signals, hidden emotions, deeper truths. You respond with more wisdom because your actions come from awareness instead of impulse. You begin moving through life with the kind of presence that makes others feel safe, understood, and respected. And in return, you start attracting situations that mirror the calm you embody. You'll also find that people begin to respect your presence more deeply. When you're no longer forcing conversations, pushing advice, or trying to control every dynamic, your words carry more weight. People listen because they know you don't speak from pressure. They trust you because you don't suffocate them with expectations. You become a grounding force, someone others can lean on without fear of being judged or corrected. Your presence becomes more healing than your solutions. This shift also protects your peace. Interference is not just exhausting, it's emotionally costly. When you insert yourself into battles that aren't yours, you absorb stress that was never meant for you. When you constantly try to fix others, you take responsibility for pain that does not belong to you. When you try to control outcomes, you carry the burden of things that were never in your hands. Stepping back frees you from this weight. It allows you to care without drowning. To love without losing yourself. To help without harming your own peace. When you stop interfering with life, you also stop feeding drama. Most drama comes from over-involvement, from reacting too quickly, from making assumptions, from rushing into situations that needed time instead of action. When you learn the discipline of stepping back, you begin to see how much chaos you used to create without realizing it. And you begin to appreciate the simplicity that appears when you allow life to unfold naturally. This doesn't mean you never take action. Wise action is different from reactive interference. Wise action arises when you act from clarity, calm, and understanding. It is intentional, not impulsive. It helps instead of controlling. It comes from a quiet center, not from fear. When you act from this place, your involvement becomes meaningful rather than stressful. You enter situations with awareness and leave them without regret. Life becomes softer when you accept that not every moment needs your influence. You discover that stepping back can be more powerful than stepping in. You realize that presence, quiet, grounded, open presence, can transform a situation more than control ever could. You start to trust timing. Trust natural growth. Trust the intelligence of the moment. And in that trust, you find peace. Not the peace that comes from perfect circumstances, but the peace that comes from letting life breathe. This is the beginning of a new way of being. A way of moving through the world with less force and more flow. A way of finding strength not in control, but in presence. A way of creating harmony simply by learning when to step back. And once you understand this subtle art, every part of your life begins to change. The moment you begin stepping back from trying to control everything, something unexpected happens inside you. Life feels a little lighter. Yet your emotions still rise with surprising force. You start noticing how quickly your mood can change, how one thought can shift your entire inner world, how feelings appear without warning and leave just as suddenly. This is where the next part of the journey unfolds. Because it's impossible to understand peace without understanding the nature of your emotions. Most people move through life treating their emotions as if they are permanent facts. When a heavy feeling appears, it feels like it will stay forever. When the heart sinks, it feels like it will never rise again. When fear shows up, it feels like the end of safety. When anger flares, it feels like the world has suddenly turned against you. These reactions happen because emotions feel solid, as if they define reality the moment they arise. But emotions are not solid. They are temporary events passing through your mind and body. And they lose their control over you the moment you stop believing they are lasting. This becomes clearer the more you pay attention. Every feeling you have ever experienced has faded. Even the ones that once felt unbearable. Not one emotion has stayed with you permanently. Even your strongest memories are tied to emotions that changed over time. Yet your mind still treats emotions as permanent because you identify with them. You say, "I am sad, I am anxious, I am angry," turning temporary events into personal identity. And when an emotion becomes who you think you are, its grip tightens. But something changes the moment you shift from "I am" to "I feel." When you say, "I feel sadness," it stays what it truly is, an experience, not a definition. Emotions stop defining your identity and instead move through you like weather across the sky. They come, they peak, they fade. When you witness them in this way, their intensity weakens without any force on your part. This awareness is not about ignoring how you feel. It's about seeing with clarity instead of panic. When you observe an emotion rather than merge with it, you stay grounded even while the emotion rises. It's like watching waves instead of being dragged by them. You feel the movement, but you are not lost inside it. This separation gives you room to breathe. Room to think. Room to choose your next step from a place of understanding instead of impulse. The mind often creates suffering by clinging to the emotional story rather than the emotion itself. A single feeling can trigger layers of meaning that were never meant to be there. A moment of sadness becomes a story of failure. A moment of fear becomes a story of danger. A moment of insecurity becomes a story of inadequacy. These emotional stories create more pain than the emotions originally caused. Once the story begins, the emotion intensifies, and the cycle repeats. When you remove the story and let the emotion exist without interpretation, the emotional storm calms. The feeling becomes easier to handle. It becomes just a visitor, not a threat. This simple shift reduces emotional overwhelm because the emotion loses the extra weight that was created by your thoughts. The body plays a major role as well. Emotions are not just thoughts, they are physical responses. Tightness in the chest, heaviness in the stomach, pressure behind the eyes, heat in the face. These sensations are part of the emotional experience. When you resist the emotion, your body tightens. Tightness traps the emotion, making it linger longer. But when you allow the body to soften even a little, the emotion begins to move. A relaxed body helps emotions complete their natural cycle. This works because every emotion has a beginning, middle, and end. If you interrupt it with resistance or panic, it stays longer. When you allow it, it resolves faster than you expect. Acceptance does not mean liking the emotion. It means letting it move without tightening around it. Another important part of emotional impermanence is understanding why certain emotions seem to come back often. Emotions repeat not because they are powerful, but because your reaction to them is the same each time. If sadness appears and you respond with judgment, sadness deepens. If anxiety appears and you respond with fear of the anxiety grows. If anger appears and you respond with shame for feeling it, anger tightens. The emotion survives because the reaction feeds it. When you shift your reaction, when you respond with curiosity instead of resistance, the emotional loop breaks. Curiosity opens space. Even a small question like, "What is this feeling trying to show me right now?" changes the entire dynamic. Emotional curiosity is not analysis. It is openness. It stops the cycle of emotional repetition by giving the emotion a chance to complete its path. Relationships are also deeply affected by emotional impermanence. When you believe your emotions are permanent, you take them out on others. A temporary irritation becomes a fight. A temporary insecurity becomes jealousy. A temporary disappointment becomes blame. Understanding emotional impermanence helps you pause before reacting. You begin recognizing that your emotion might be strong now but weaker in 20 minutes. You learn to wait before speaking, wait before acting, wait before making assumptions. This single ability protects your connections with others more than any communication skill ever could. There is also a deeper part of this teaching that touches the core of your being. When you watch an emotion rise and fall, you begin to notice something else. Something underneath the emotion that does not move. A stillness, a presence, a steady awareness that remains the same even when your emotions shift wildly. This steady awareness is your true self. It is the part of you that is untouched by emotional weather. The more you connect with this steady place, the less frightened you become of emotional storms. You begin trusting that no matter how strong an emotion feels, there is a place within you that remains calm. This understanding helps during the most difficult emotions. Grief, heartbreak, fear of the future, loneliness. These emotions feel intense because they shake the foundations of your identity. But even these emotions are temporary. They move through in waves. They change shape. They soften when you allow them to be felt without adding stories or resistance. They eventually release. You discover a quiet courage within yourself because you realize you can survive emotional storms without losing your center. Another aspect of emotional impermanence is learning not to cling to positive emotions. People often try to hold on to joy, excitement, love, inspiration, happiness. But the more you cling, the faster they fade. Positive emotions become more enjoyable when you allow them to come and go naturally. When you stop trying to hold them in place, you actually feel them more fully. Joy becomes richer. Love becomes deeper. Gratitude becomes more alive. This freedom makes happiness feel more genuine because you are no longer desperate for it to stay. This teaching also helps with emotional comparison. Many people judge themselves for not feeling a certain way. They believe they should be happier, calmer, more confident, more motivated. But emotional cycles differ from person to person. Your rhythm is not wrong. Your emotional patterns are not failures. They are natural variations of your internal weather. Accepting this relieves unnecessary pressure and allows you to move through your emotions without judging yourself. With time, emotional impermanence shapes how you view your entire life. You stop taking negative emotions as signs that something is wrong with you. You stop taking positive emotions as proof that everything is perfect. You stop believing that your emotions dictate your destiny. You understand that every emotion is part of your experience, but not the whole of your identity. This perspective allows you to live with more balance. You don't overreact to your highs or drown in your lows. You live with a grounded heart. This grounded heart becomes your guide. It teaches you that emotions are not obstacles, but signals. They show you where you need healing, where you need rest, where you need boundaries, where you need courage, where you need change. When you see emotions as messengers instead of enemies, they become easier to work with. They speak more clearly when you listen without fear. The wisdom of emotional impermanence is not about controlling how you feel. It is about freeing yourself from the belief that emotions control you. When you stop fighting your feelings, they pass more peacefully. When you stop identifying with them, they lose their grip. When you stop fearing them, they transform. You become more present, more grounded, more aware of the subtle shifts within you. And with that awareness comes a deeper peace. A peace that no emotion, no matter how strong, can take away. As emotional impermanence becomes more familiar, another layer of inner experience begins to reveal itself. You start noticing that the closer you get to real acceptance, the more intense your inner resistance becomes. It shows up suddenly, as if something inside you senses change and tries to stop it. This resistance is not random. It is the ego making its last effort to hold on to the patterns that once made it feel safe. When acceptance grows, the ego feels it is losing control, and that loss creates a spike in discomfort. Thoughts become louder, reactions become sharper, and old emotional habits rise with surprising force. This sudden return of tension can feel confusing, especially when you thought you were making progress. But this spike is not a backward step. It is the ego's final attempt to keep things familiar. The ego fears change even when the change is healing. The ego was built to protect you. It learned to predict danger, avoid rejection, and maintain a stable identity. These functions helped you survive past experiences, but they also limit your freedom when you begin seeking inner peace. Whenever you approach a moment of surrender, the ego reacts because surrender feels like disappearing to it. To the ego, acceptance means losing its role as the one who controls, defends, and manages everything. This is why the mind becomes noisy right before breakthrough. It floods you with thoughts that sound urgent. Thoughts that insist something is wrong. Thoughts that convince you to tighten your grip again. These thoughts are not truth. They are survival reflexes. They come from the ego trying to maintain its old position. Understanding this weakens their influence because you no longer mistake them for reality. The ego also uses emotion to regain control. You may feel a sudden burst of irritation, fear, sadness, or defensiveness. These emotions are not failures. They are signals that you are changing. The ego uses emotional intensity to bring you back to familiar patterns, hoping you will react the way you always have. But when you stay present through this surge, something important happens: the ego loses power. It depends on your reaction to survive. When you do not react, it cannot stay in control. This stage requires patience with yourself. The ego is not your enemy. It is a protective structure built from past experiences, childhood patterns, learned fears, and repeated emotional reactions. It thinks it is keeping you safe. When you begin changing, the ego becomes frightened. Treating this fear with patience instead of resistance creates space for transformation. The more you understand the ego, the less tightly it controls you. A common sign of this final ego surge is the urge to act impulsively. The mind pressures you to fix something immediately, confront someone, overthink, explain yourself, defend yourself, or chase certainty. These impulses are the ego's way of pulling you back into old habits. Acting on them keeps the pattern alive. Letting the urge pass weakens the pattern. You don't need to force anything. You only need to not feed the reaction. You may also notice physical reactions. Restlessness, tightness in the body, a sudden rush of heat, or tension in the chest. These are the body's responses to old emotional energy being released. The ego stored these reactions for years, and now they are rising because they finally have room to leave. Meeting these sensations with a soft breath instead of panic allows the release to continue. The body unwinds when you stop resisting the sensation. Right before acceptance, identity also becomes unstable. You may feel disconnected from the version of yourself you were before, yet uncertain about who you are becoming. This sense of in-between can feel uncomfortable, but it is a necessary part of transformation. The ego interprets this discomfort as danger because it relies on identity for stability. When your identity begins shifting, the ego tries to pull you back into old roles, old stories, and old emotional patterns. Allowing yourself to stay in this space without rushing to define yourself creates room for a deeper identity to emerge, one not shaped by fear or control. Another part of this process involves letting go of emotional stories that kept the ego alive. Stories about who you must be, how life must go, what others must think, or what you must prove. When you begin releasing these stories, the ego panics because they were its foundation. The ego used these narratives to maintain order. Without them, it feels exposed. But exposure allows truth to surface. When these old stories dissolve, you begin seeing yourself more clearly than ever before. You may also notice resistance when you start setting boundaries that honor your peace. The ego, shaped by old patterns, fears losing approval or connection. It tells you that choosing yourself is selfish or risky. But when you recognize this as ego fear rather than truth, you gain the freedom to act from self-respect instead of old conditioning. Each boundary weakens the ego's grip and strengthens your inner stability. The ego's final resistance also shows up as doubt. Doubt about your path, doubt about your choices, doubt about your progress. This doubt appears because the ego equates uncertainty with danger. But uncertainty is not danger. It is openness. It is space. It is possibility. When you allow doubt to exist without letting it dictate your actions, doubt loses its authority. As you move through this stage, awareness becomes your most important tool. You watch the ego without fighting it. You observe the fear without attaching meaning. You feel the emotion without assuming it defines the future. This awareness interrupts the ego's automatic patterns. The ego cannot dominate you while you are aware of it. There is also a moment in this process when you begin to see the ego as small. Before, it felt like the whole truth. Now it feels like a voice inside you, not the entirety of you. This shift marks the beginning of freedom. You realize that your awareness is larger than your thoughts, larger than your emotions, larger than your stories. The ego becomes a part of your experience, not the controller of your experience. This change creates a softening inside you. The tension you carried for years begins to lighten. The urge to react weakens. The emotional storms become less overwhelming. You begin responding to life instead of fighting it. You start feeling moments of clarity. Moments of open space. Moments of quiet that were not available before. Peace begins to settle into your body in a new way. Not as an idea, but as a lived experience. Acceptance no longer feels like a challenge. It feels natural. You stop forcing life into a shape and start moving with life instead. You stop carrying emotional burdens that were never yours. You stop defending identities that no longer fit. What once felt frightening now feels freeing. What once felt like loss now feels like release. What once felt like collapse now feels like awakening. The ego's last stand is the final shadow before this shift happens. And the moment you stay present through it, you step into a deeper sense of self that does not need control to feel safe. As the ego's grip weakens and you begin feeling more space around your thoughts, another layer of truth becomes easier to see. Not all resistance shows up as dramatic inner battles. Most of it is subtle, quiet, almost invisible. It hides inside your daily life, buried in the smallest moments that seem harmless but slowly drain your energy. These tiny tensions build up without your awareness, shaping your mood, your patience, and your peace far more than the big emotional storms ever could. This next step begins by noticing what you resist without even realizing it. There are countless moments throughout the day when your body tightens, your breath shortens, or your thoughts stiffen against reality. A slow driver. A long line. A noise you didn't expect. A plan that changes suddenly. A message that takes too long to arrive. Someone speaking too slowly. A notification that interrupts your focus. These moments seem insignificant, yet each one creates a small inner conflict. Your ego reacts instantly, protesting the inconvenience, demanding control, insisting the moment should be different than it is. These tiny frictions accumulate. Each one adds a layer of tension, a subtle exhaustion you carry without noticing. By the end of the day, you feel drained. Not because something big happened, but because hundreds of small resistances tightened your body and mind piece by piece. Micro-resistance is one of the greatest hidden causes of stress. And most people never see it happening. They assume they are tired because of responsibilities, tasks, or work, when the real fatigue comes from constantly fighting what life brings in tiny, repetitive moments. This is where micro-surrender becomes essential. Micro-surrender is the practice of releasing tension in the smallest moments. It is the art of letting go at the exact point where the ego wants to tighten. These small releases create a powerful shift. They turn daily life from a constant struggle into a smoother flow. You regain energy that used to leak away through friction. You begin to feel calmer throughout the day without effort. Micro-surrender starts with noticing your internal reactions. When something unexpected happens, pay attention to the immediate tightening. It may show up as irritation, a sigh, a spike of impatience, or a small voice complaining in your mind. That reaction is the ego demanding control. It wants the moment to match its expectations. Each time you surrender instead of resist, you break the old habit. You soften instead of tighten. You accept instead of argue. This softening releases trapped energy instantly. One of the most common areas where micro-resistance appears is waiting. Waiting in line, waiting for a reply, waiting for food, waiting in traffic. The ego sees waiting as an interruption to its plan. It wants movement, speed, certainty. When those are taken away, impatience arises. This impatience is resistance. It creates stress even though nothing harmful is happening. Micro-surrender turns waiting into a neutral moment. When you accept that waiting is happening, your body relaxes. The mind becomes lighter. You stop losing energy over something you cannot control. Another area where micro-resistance appears is in interruptions. A child calling your name while you work. A coworker asking a question. A notification appearing when you're focused. The ego perceives interruptions as threats to its sense of control. It reacts with irritation even before you consciously process what happened. Micro-surrender happens when you drop the tension quickly. Instead of feeding the irritation, you pause, breathe, and return to what matters without letting the interruption take more from you than the moment itself. Plans changing is another source of hidden resistance. Your mind imagines how things should unfold, and when reality shifts even slightly, the ego reacts. This reaction wastes energy. Micro-surrender means releasing the attachment to your plan in real time. When something changes, instead of tightening, you mentally say, "This is what's happening now." That simple statement melts the friction. It prevents the ego from creating conflict with the moment. Sound is another powerful trigger for micro-resistance. A loud noise, someone chewing, a dog barking, the hum of a machine. These sounds are harmless, yet the ego reacts as if they are invasions. It labels them as wrong. This reaction creates instant tension. Micro-surrender means allowing sound to be present without adding judgment. When you stop labeling sound as disruptive, your nervous system stays calm. Micro-resistance also appears in your daily tasks. Washing dishes, cleaning, preparing food, going to work, answering messages. The ego often resists the simplicity of daily life. It wants stimulation or novelty, so it protests routine. Micro-surrender means giving full presence to small tasks without the inner complaint. When you do something simple without resistance, it becomes peaceful instead of draining. There is also resistance in conversations. When someone talks longer than you want or expresses emotions you don't want to hear, the ego reacts. Micro-surrender means listening without tensing, allowing the other person to speak without mentally rushing them. This creates deeper connection, reduces conflict, and conserves your energy. Another hidden area is expectations about time. The ego wants everything to happen on its schedule. When life moves slower or faster, tension arises. Micro-surrender means letting go of the mental timeline. When you allow events to unfold in their own time, your mind stops fighting the pace of life. Your body also holds micro-resistance. Small tensions in the shoulders, jaw, hands, or stomach often have nothing to do with physical strain and everything to do with resisting the moment. Micro-surrender means dropping the tension whenever you notice it. A soft jaw, a relaxed shoulder, or a deeper breath dissolves more stress than most people realize. Micro-surrender also transforms emotional reactions. Even mild emotions like annoyance or disappointment create resistance. When you allow the emotion to be felt without tightening around it, the emotion moves through faster. This keeps your emotional landscape smooth throughout the day. There is also resistance to uncertainty. Even small uncertainties, like not knowing how long something will take, trigger mental discomfort. The ego exaggerates the threat. Micro-surrender responds with openness. When you let uncertainty be present without trying to force clarity, the mind relaxes. Micro-surrenders build on each other. One small release makes the next easier. Over time, these tiny choices reshape your entire nervous system. You stop living in a state of subtle tension. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You start moving through the day with ease. Challenges feel lighter. Annoyances lose their power. You feel less drained and more grounded at the end of the day. The beauty of micro-surrender is that it doesn't require dramatic effort. It is not about forcing calm. It is about removing the invisible walls that block natural calm. Your peace becomes less dependent on perfect conditions and more connected to your ability to release tension instantly. Life begins to feel more spacious. You feel less pushed by the world and more carried by it. Micro-surrenders develop a habit of acceptance. They teach your mind to stop fighting the moment. They train your nervous system to relax instead of react. They reveal how often the ego creates unnecessary suffering. Over time, these small moments of letting go lead to a profound shift. You begin to live with less resistance, less frustration, and less inner noise. You start to realize that peace is not found in changing your circumstances. Peace is found in changing your response to the countless tiny moments that once triggered you. This is how surrender becomes strength and acceptance becomes freedom. As the truth of not being in control settles more deeply into your life, another shift begins to reveal itself. With every layer of surrender, something else becomes clearer. Your mind has been carrying far more than it needs. Old thoughts, old fears, old expectations, old worries, old predictions, old conversations, old regrets. All of this mental clutter kept the urge for control alive. And now that you're learning to release control, the clutter begins to show itself in a way you cannot ignore. This is where the next transformation starts. There is a kind of heaviness that comes not from the world but from the mind. Thoughts pile on top of thoughts, creating noise that makes it hard to hear your deeper wisdom. The mind becomes a crowded room filled with unfinished dialogues, future scenarios, and past failures replaying themselves. This clutter does not appear because something is wrong with you. It appears because the mind was trying to manage too much. When you believed you had to control outcomes, hold everything together, and predict every possible scenario, your mind filled itself with unnecessary weight. Now that you're letting go, you can begin clearing the space within. Voluntary simplicity of the mind is the practice of choosing less. Fewer thoughts, fewer stories, fewer mental distractions. Not because the mind needs to be empty, but because the clutter blocks peace. Buddhist teachings often point to the mind as the source of suffering. Not because thoughts are bad, but because most thoughts are repetitive and unhelpful. When you stop grabbing every passing thought as important, your inner world becomes quieter. You begin to see which thoughts are meaningful and which are just noise created by old habits. One powerful way mental simplicity starts is by noticing the unnecessary. Throughout your day, countless thoughts appear that serve no purpose. Thoughts about things you cannot change. Thoughts about people's opinions. Thoughts about outcomes you cannot control. Thoughts about events that already happened. Thoughts about futures that may never exist. These thoughts feel urgent only because the mind has been trained to react to everything. When you pause and observe them, you begin to see how many of them lead nowhere. The practice of letting thoughts pass without grabbing onto them is the beginning of mental decluttering. You don't force thoughts away. You simply stop giving them authority. They drift through without anchoring themselves. This reduces compulsive thinking. The mind becomes softer, like a river flowing instead of a waterfall crashing. The quieter the mind becomes, the easier it is to see reality clearly. Another part of voluntary mental simplicity is reducing mental multitasking. The mind tries to think about several things at once. Planning the day while replaying yesterday. Worrying about later while handling now. This split focus creates restlessness. When you bring your attention to just one thing, the task in front of you, the breath in your chest, the sound in the room, the mind relaxes. Simplicity happens when you stop demanding your mind to be everywhere at once. Your mind also becomes cluttered through comparison. Comparing your path with others, comparing your progress, comparing your value, comparing your speed. These comparisons create pressure and confusion. They make you believe you're behind when in truth you are simply on your own timeline. Letting go of comparison is a major act of mental simplicity. When you stop measuring yourself against others, your mind gains space that was previously filled with doubt. Expectations also contribute to clutter. The mind carries heavy expectations about how life should unfold, how people should behave, how you should feel, and what success should look like. When these expectations are not met, frustration arises. Letting go of unnecessary expectations doesn't mean lowering your standards. It means clearing space for reality to unfold without being judged at every turn. When you stop demanding perfection from life, your mind becomes peaceful. Mental clutter also grows from unprocessed emotions. When feelings are avoided, they remain unfinished thoughts in the mind. They reappear as worry, fear, resentment, or confusion. Mental simplicity involves facing emotions directly instead of thinking around them. When you feel sadness, you feel it fully. When you feel anger, you acknowledge it. When you feel insecurity, you sit with it. This openness clears emotional residue that would otherwise take up mental space. A simple mind is not an empty mind. It is an organized one. Thoughts arise, but they don't overwhelm you. Ideas appear, but they don't pile on top of each other. You begin to think more clearly, act more calmly, and make decisions with ease. The noise that once controlled your life begins to fade. Mental simplicity also changes how you speak to yourself. A cluttered mind uses harsh language, criticizing, doubting, pressuring. A simpler mind uses fewer words and more understanding. You begin talking to yourself in a gentler tone. You stop attacking yourself for mistakes. You stop repeating negative stories. This shift is subtle but powerful. When your inner voice becomes softer, the urge to control everything weakens naturally. Another important aspect is simplifying your attention. The mind becomes overwhelmed when attention is scattered. Focusing on too many things at once creates mental fog. When you choose one focus at a time, mental clarity grows. This might mean giving full attention to eating, walking, speaking, or listening. This is not about mindfulness as a technique. It's about removing the pressure of divided attention. When your attention is unified, the mind becomes sharper and calmer. Daily life offers endless opportunities to practice mental simplicity. When a thought rises, you ask, is this useful? If it is not, you let it drift. When a worry appears, you ask, can I act on this now? If the answer is no, you release it. When a memory surfaces, you ask, is holding this helping me? If it is not, you allow it to pass. These simple questions declutter the mind moment by moment. Mental simplicity also reveals how unnecessary much of the internal narration is. The mind comments on everything. It judges, labels, predicts, interprets, and imagines. Most of this commentary is automatic and unhelpful. When you stop engaging with the inner narrator, it loses volume. Silence appears not because you force it, but because you stop feeding the noise. This simplicity brings emotional stability. When the mind is clear, emotions flow without overwhelming you. When the mind is uncluttered, you see your reactions more clearly. You notice the gap between a feeling and your response. This space gives you freedom to choose instead of react. Inner peace grows in that space. A simpler mind also strengthens intuition. Intuition is drowned by noise. When the mind is cluttered, you cannot sense your deeper wisdom. When the mind clears, intuition becomes louder and more reliable. Decisions feel less confusing. You trust yourself more. You feel guided instead of lost. Another consequence of mental simplicity is increased presence. When the mind stops replaying the past and rehearsing the future, the present moment becomes easier to access. You experience your life directly, not through mental filters, but through awareness. The urge to control fades because you are no longer living in mental projections. You are living in what is real. Mental simplicity also affects your relationships. When your mind is uncluttered, you listen more deeply. You respond with more understanding. You stop overthinking conversations or imagining what others meant. This reduces unnecessary conflict. Simplicity in the mind invites simplicity in connection. This practice does not require isolation or silence. It requires honesty. It requires noticing which thoughts help and which thoughts harm. It requires letting go of the internal weight you no longer need. When you choose simplicity, you choose clarity. When you choose clarity, you choose peace. As you continue clearing mental clutter, the urge to control fades naturally. You no longer need to micromanage life because your mind is no longer filled with fear, tension, and noise. You trust life more. You trust yourself more. You trust the flow of each moment. And in that trust, you experience the quiet strength of a mind that is no longer fighting itself or the world. As your mind becomes lighter and the clutter begins to dissolve, a new kind of sensitivity awakens. You start noticing things you couldn't see before, your reactions, your desires, your emotional pulls, the subtle ways you lean toward or away from life. With a quieter mind, these shifts are clearer. And this clarity reveals another challenge on the path to peace: how to care without being consumed, how to stay open without being overwhelmed, how to feel deeply without losing your balance. This is where the next lesson begins. There is a sharp difference between equanimity and indifference. Yet many people confuse them. One is strength, the other is avoidance. One is clarity, the other is numbness. One opens the heart, the other closes it. Equanimity is the ability to stay steady in the middle of life's storms without disconnecting from what matters. Indifference is shutting down to avoid feeling anything. When the mind becomes simpler, you naturally move toward equanimity. But the ego sometimes mistakes this for coldness and tries to pull you into old emotional habits again. Understanding the difference helps you walk the middle path with confidence. Equanimity does not mean ignoring emotions. It means you can sense them clearly without drowning in them. When sadness appears, you feel it without collapsing. When joy arises, you experience it without clinging. When anger shows up, you meet it without letting it control your actions. This balanced relationship with emotion frees you from both extremes, intensity that consumes you and numbness that disconnects you. You become present with your inner world without letting it dictate your behavior. Indifference, on the other hand, often appears as a defense. People turn numb because they fear being hurt, overwhelmed, or rejected. They shut down to avoid vulnerability. This numbness may feel safe, but it also closes the heart. It blocks connection, passion, compassion, and growth. It is a shield that keeps pain out, but also keeps life out. Indifference is not peace. It is emotional paralysis masquerading as strength. Equanimity is different because it keeps the heart open. It allows you to care sincerely while remaining steady. It lets you love without possession, support others without rescuing them, listen without absorbing their suffering, and stay kind without being manipulated. Equanimity is not distance. It is grounded presence. This grounded presence starts with understanding your own emotional patterns. When someone you care about suffers, your instinct might be to take on their pain. This emotional entanglement feels noble, but it drains your energy and often prevents them from learning what they need. Equanimity says, "I am here with you, but I remain centered." This response gives space for both compassion and clarity. It supports without smothering. Equanimity also applies to conflict. When someone speaks with anger or frustration, entanglement makes you react. Indifference makes you shut down. Equanimity lets you listen. You hear their words without losing your calm. You respond from awareness, not ego. This response diffuses conflict because it removes the energy that feeds escalation. Your calm becomes a stabilizing force. Another part of equanimity is accepting that you cannot control outcomes. You can care deeply about something. A relationship, a goal, a dream, without trying to force it into existence. Equanimity allows dedication without attachment. You put in sincere effort, but you release the outcome. This frees you from the suffering that comes from clinging. It also helps you see new possibilities when things don't unfold the way you hoped. This balance extends to success and failure. When things go well, equanimity keeps you grounded. You appreciate the moment without letting pride inflate your identity. When things go wrong, equanimity helps you stay steady. You learn from mistakes without turning them into personal attacks on yourself. This stability creates emotional maturity. You stop riding the highs and lows like a roller coaster. You move through life with steady confidence. Equanimity also transforms relationships. When you practice this balance, people feel safe around you. They sense you are present but not needy, caring but not controlling, supportive but not invasive. This creates trust. People open up more because they feel seen without being judged or pressured. Your presence becomes a place of calm. You stop projecting your fears onto others, and they no longer feel responsible for managing your emotions. Another important part of equanimity is recognizing that you cannot hold the weight of the world. Caring deeply does not mean carrying everything. There is a difference between compassion and burden-taking. Equanimity allows you to feel compassion without absorbing pain that isn't yours. This protects your inner peace and gives others the dignity of handling their own journey. Equanimity is also closely connected to humility. When you recognize that you cannot control life, you stop demanding that it match your expectations. You respond instead of resist. You accept instead of grasp. This humility opens the heart without making it fragile. Equanimity becomes the natural state of a mind and heart that no longer cling. This balance requires practice. Emotional habits are strong. The mind easily slips into old patterns, overreaction or withdrawal. But each moment offers a chance to choose differently. When you feel pulled into emotional intensity, you pause. When you feel tempted to shut down, you breathe. When you want to fix everything, you soften. When you want to run, you stay present. Each small choice strengthens your inner stability. Equanimity also teaches you to trust the natural intelligence of emotions. Feelings arise with a purpose, but they don't need to take over your life. They guide you without controlling you. They move through you without defining you. This relationship with emotion creates inner freedom. You become sensitive without being fragile, open without being overwhelmed, strong without becoming rigid. This middle path reveals a deeper truth. You can love without losing yourself. You can care without clinging. You can feel without falling apart. You can stay open without breaking. Equanimity is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of balance. As you learn to care without collapsing into attachment, you also begin to see something deeper about human relationships. Staying balanced in your own emotions is one thing, but staying balanced while dealing with the imperfections of others is a more delicate challenge. People will disappoint you. They will act from their wounds, their habits, their blind spots. They will say things without thinking. They will project their pain onto you. And now that your heart is opening again, not numbed, not entangled, you start feeling the weight of this reality with new clarity. This opens the door to the next lesson. There is a form of acceptance that does not come from weakness. It comes from wisdom. It is the kind of acceptance that allows you to see another person as they are without pretending, without clinging, without rescuing, without excusing harmful behavior. Many people confuse compassion with enabling. They think being kind means saying yes to things that hurt them, ignoring red flags, or sacrificing their peace to keep someone else comfortable. But real compassion is much more intelligent. It sees the pain beneath a person's actions, but also recognizes when their pain is causing harm. Compassionate acceptance means acknowledging someone's flaws without absorbing the consequences of those flaws. It means you can understand why someone acts the way they do without letting their behavior damage your emotional world. This is one of the most misunderstood teachings in Buddhism. Compassion is not passive. It requires strength. It demands clarity. It calls for boundaries that protect your peace while still allowing kindness to flow. To practice this, you must first recognize the difference between understanding and tolerating. Understanding someone's history, wounds, or fears helps you see them with empathy. But understanding does not mean you must stay in situations that drain you. It does not mean you must accept disrespect. It does not mean you must remain silent when someone's actions cross your limits. Compassion can coexist with firmness. Boundaries are not punishments. They are expressions of self-respect. Many people avoid setting boundaries because they fear being unkind. But boundaries are acts of honesty. They tell the other person, I care about you, but I also care about myself. This balance prevents resentment, burnout, and emotional entanglement. Without boundaries, compassion becomes distorted. You end up carrying burdens that were never yours. You end up protecting people from the consequences of their own behavior, which prevents them from learning and growing. Compassionate acceptance also means seeing that everyone is shaped by their conditioning. People act from patterns developed long before you entered their life. Their reactions are reflections of their past. Their anger may come from old pain. Their defensiveness may come from fear. Their coldness may come from wounds they never addressed. Knowing this helps you take their actions less personally. But taking it less personally does not mean pretending it doesn't hurt. It means responding consciously instead of reacting impulsively. In relationships, this balance becomes essential. When someone acts from a place of hurt, your compassion lets you see the pain behind their behavior. But your clarity lets you decide whether their behavior is healthy for you. Compassion allows forgiveness. Clarity allows boundaries. The two must work together. If you have compassion without boundaries, you become depleted. If you have boundaries without compassion, you become cold. True acceptance blends both. Another aspect of compassionate acceptance is releasing the urge to fix people. When you care deeply, you may want to change someone's habits, heal their wounds, or teach them lessons they are not ready for. This desire feels loving, but it often becomes controlling. People grow on their own timelines, not yours. When you try to force their growth, you damage the connection. Compassionate acceptance allows people to walk their own path. You can support them, guide them when asked, and hold space for them, but you cannot do their work for them. It also requires accepting that some relationships cannot continue in their current form. When someone repeatedly crosses your boundaries, refuses to acknowledge harm, or uses your compassion as permission for their behavior, the compassionate choice may be distance, not out of anger, but out of wisdom. Stepping back is sometimes the most loving action for you and for them. It creates room for growth that proximity prevents. Compassionate acceptance also helps you deal with disappointment more gracefully. When someone fails to meet your expectations, you do not collapse into resentment or blame. You understand that they acted from their limitations. You accept that no one will meet your needs perfectly. You communicate your needs clearly, but you do not demand perfection. This reduces conflict and creates space for healthier connection. This practice also transforms forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or allowing repeated harm. Forgiveness means removing the weight of bitterness from your heart so you can move forward with clarity. You can forgive someone and still choose distance. You can forgive someone and still maintain boundaries. You can forgive someone and still protect yourself. Forgiveness is a release of internal tension, not a continuation of unhealthy patterns. Compassionate acceptance also requires accepting your own limitations. You cannot be everything for everyone. You cannot carry every burden. You cannot heal every person you meet. This humility softens the pressure you place on yourself. It frees you from guilt when you choose yourself. It reminds you that compassion includes your own well-being. This balance reveals a deeper truth about compassion. It is an expression of wisdom, not sacrifice. It flows from openness, not obligation. It arises naturally when the heart is clear, not when it is tangled in guilt or fear. Compassion becomes steady when it is rooted in boundaries. It becomes powerful when it is paired with self-respect. It becomes healing when it comes from presence, not control. When you practice compassionate acceptance, you begin relating to others in a way that feels aligned with both kindness and truth. You stop expecting perfection from them. You stop expecting perfection from yourself. You learn to meet people with softness while protecting your own center. You care deeply, but you no longer lose yourself in the process. This middle path becomes one of the greatest freedoms you can experience. You no longer shut down to avoid pain. You no longer overextend to gain approval. You no longer confuse compassion with self-erasure. You walk through life with an open heart and steady feet, offering kindness without sacrificing your peace. As you release the alternate versions of your life and return to the one you are actually living, another layer of truth becomes unmistakably clear. So much of the pain you've carried didn't come from what happened. It came from when it happened, or when it didn't happen. Beneath your regrets, beneath your disappointments, beneath your hopes, there has always been a silent expectation that life should unfold on your timeline. That things should arrive when you believe you're ready, that certain milestones should already be behind you, and when they aren't, suffering appears. This is where the next shift begins. There is a hidden pressure that shapes people from childhood. An invisible schedule the mind uses to decide whether life is on track. It tells you when success should appear, when love should arrive, when healing should be complete, when clarity should come, when goals should be met. When life doesn't follow this schedule, the mind interprets it as failure. But this schedule is not universal. It is a creation of the ego, built from comparison, culture, fear, and imagined expectations. The universe does not follow it. Much suffering comes from clinging to this artificial timeline. You feel behind when you are not. You feel delayed when you are actually growing. You feel lost when you are simply in a phase that requires patience. The belief that life must follow your internal clock keeps you from seeing the truth. Life has always been moving at its own pace, one far wiser than the mind's expectations. Letting go of your personal timeline begins by recognizing that timing is not something you control. Opportunities appear when you are ready for them, even if you don't feel ready. Lessons repeat until you're able to learn them. Certain doors remain closed because you are not yet the person who can walk through them. Some paths open only after unexpected events shift your direction. You cannot rush these processes without losing depth. When you accept this, the pressure begins to dissolve. Many people believe they should have achieved more by now. They think they should have healed certain wounds, found certain relationships, or reached certain goals. But, should have, is a trap. It is based on comparison, not reality. No life unfolds in a straight line. Growth requires cycles, setbacks, pauses, rest, reflection, experimentation, stillness, and unexpected turns. When you accept that these are part of your timeline, you stop fighting them. This acceptance also changes how you interpret delays. A delay is not punishment. It is protection. It is preparation. It is alignment. The moment you are asking for may not bring peace yet. The opportunity you want may require skills you haven't developed. The relationship you desire may require a version of you that still needs to emerge. Life is not withholding. It is organizing. It is arranging circumstances in ways you cannot yet see. Another part of releasing timeline attachment is recognizing how much anxiety comes from rushing. Rushing comes from fear. Fear of missing out, fear of falling behind, fear of being judged, fear of failing. When you rush, you miss the depth of the moment you're in. You skip lessons. You skip clarity. You skip inner development. Slowing down does not delay your life. It brings you into alignment with it. The mind often believes that faster means better. But growth has its own rhythm. Healing takes the time it takes. Insight arrives when it arrives. Love comes when it is ready. Trying to force timing disrupts the natural unfolding of your journey. When you accept uncontrollable timing, you feel less pressure to move quickly and more trust in the wisdom behind the pace of your life. Your relationship with goals also changes. When you cling to timelines, goals become sources of stress. You measure your worth by how quickly you achieve them. You feel discouraged when progress slows. But when you release the timeline, goals become intentions, not demands. You still work toward them, but without the fear-driven urgency. This makes your effort lighter, clearer, and more sustainable. You move from pressure to purpose. Letting go of timing also transforms how you view setbacks. When something doesn't work out when you hoped it would, your mind assumes something went wrong. But often, something went right. A setback may redirect you to a better path. A loss may clear space for what truly aligns with you. A pause may prevent you from rushing into a situation that would have harmed you. When you stop judging timing, you begin to see how every delay had meaning. This acceptance changes your relationship with patience. Patience stops feeling like waiting. It becomes trust. It becomes peace. It becomes partnership with the universe instead of resistance to it. You start to understand that the right things do not need to be forced. They arrive with a sense of natural unfolding. They meet you at the moment you can receive them fully. Releasing your timeline also quiets comparison. Every person's life unfolds according to their unique lessons, their unique karma, their unique path. Comparing your timing to someone else's is like comparing sunrise in one part of the world to sunset in another. They are not meant to match. When you stop comparing timelines, your self-esteem rises. You feel grounded in your own path instead of judging it by external standards. Another important part of letting go of timing is recognizing that your worth does not depend on the speed of your progress. Slow growth is not failure. Delayed progress is not incompetence. Unfinished healing is not weakness. Your journey is not a race. It is a process, a deep one, a meaningful one, a sacred one. When you stop punishing yourself for not being there yet, peace begins to take root inside you. This surrender also brings new clarity about desire. Not everything you want is meant for you at the moment you want it. Some desires arise from fear, some from comparison, some from old wounds. When timing does not align, it is not rejection. It is refinement. It is life shaping your desires into something truer, deeper, more aligned with your evolution. Letting go of timing attachment also strengthens your intuition. When you stop rushing into the future, you become more attuned to the present. Your inner voice becomes clearer. You sense the next step instead of forcing one. Decisions become less stressful because they come from alignment, not panic. There is also freedom in realizing that you cannot fall behind. Life does not have a scoreboard. Your path is not measured by milestones but by presence, awareness, and sincerity. You are not late. You are not early. You are exactly where your life needs you to be for the next part of your unfolding. When you let go of your personal schedule and accept the universe's timing, the weight you've been carrying begins to dissolve. You no longer live in conflict with the pace of your own life. You stop chasing timelines that were never yours. You feel peace not because everything is perfect, but because you stop demanding that everything happen now. This acceptance changes how you move through the world. You walk with less urgency and more presence. You trust your path. You stop comparing, rushing, and forcing. You begin to see timing not as something to control, but as something to cooperate with. And in that cooperation, life starts meeting you in ways it couldn't before. As you release your grip on timing and begin trusting the deeper rhythm of your life, something else becomes easier to notice. Even when your mind agrees with acceptance, your body often tells a different story. Your shoulders still tighten when plans change. Your breath still shortens when uncertainty appears. Your stomach still knots when emotions rise. Your jaw still clamps when you try to stay composed. The body holds on to control long after the mind begins to let go. And this is where the next lesson unfolds. There is a form of acceptance that cannot be learned through thought alone. The mind can understand surrender, but the body must feel it. Most of your resistance is stored physically. Muscles contracting, breath restricting, posture bracing, nerves anticipating danger that no longer exists. You may try to think your way into peace, yet your body keeps pulling you back into old patterns. Real acceptance begins when the body unlearns the tension it has carried for years. The body is the first place you tighten when life feels uncertain. Before a single thought forms, your breath changes, your chest closes, your shoulders rise, your hands clench. These physical reactions happen faster than your mind can process. They are the leftovers of old fears, old disappointments, old stress, and old beliefs about needing control to survive. When you hold your body in patterns of resistance, your mind naturally follows. Thoughts become sharper, emotions feel stronger, and the old urge to manage everything resurfaces. This is why mental acceptance sometimes feels incomplete, because the body has not yet let go. Physical surrender begins with breath. Breath is the bridge between your inner world and your outer experience. When you breathe deeply and slowly, your nervous system shifts out of survival mode. The body receives a signal that it is safe to soften. This softening invites the mind to calm without force. A slow breath does not erase problems, but it repositions you so you can respond instead of react. It teaches the body that it does not need to brace against life. Breath becomes the doorway through which acceptance enters the body. Posture is another silent messenger. When your posture collapses inward, your body interprets the world as threatening. When your posture becomes rigid, your body prepares for conflict. Acceptance through the body means learning to stand or sit in a way that supports openness. Not rigid, not slumped, but grounded. A grounded posture sends a powerful message to the mind: I can meet this moment without shrinking or fighting. This steady alignment creates emotional stability. It helps you stay present even when the situation is challenging. Somatic release goes even deeper. The body stores unresolved emotions in the form of tension. Tight shoulders from years of trying to hold everything together. A heavy chest from unexpressed sadness. A tight belly from chronic fear. A locked jaw from unspoken frustration. These tensions are not random. They are the physical imprint of moments you tried to control but couldn't, moments where surrender felt unsafe. When you gently release these tensions, you allow the stored emotions to move through you. This release is not dramatic. It happens slowly through softening, through breath, through attention. As the body unwinds, the mind begins to trust that letting go is not dangerous. Physical acceptance also shows up in how you handle discomfort. Many people tense up the moment they feel emotional pain. This reflex comes from a belief that tightening protects you. But tightening actually traps the emotion, keeping it stuck. When you allow the body to soften in the presence of discomfort, the emotion flows through naturally. The body becomes a safe container instead of a battlefield. This shift teaches your mind that emotions are not threats. They are experiences that pass when given permission to move. Another part of acceptance through the body is recognizing physical habits of control. Some people hold their breath during stress. Some clench their hands. Some tense their legs. Some contract the stomach. These habits reinforce anxiety. When you become aware of them, you can intervene gently. The moment you soften the pattern, your internal state changes. Your breath opens. Your mind slows. Your nervous system relaxes. This is not psychological. It is biological. The body leads, and the mind follows. Touch also plays a role in physical acceptance. Placing a hand on your chest or stomach, holding your own arms, or resting your palms on your legs can create grounding. This contact signals safety to your nervous system. It reminds your body that you are present, aware, and capable of holding your own experience. Many people never learn to soothe themselves physically. Developing this ability transforms your emotional world. When the body feels supported, the urge to control everything weakens. Movement is another doorway. Walking mindfully, stretching gently, or moving slowly with awareness helps release stored tension. Movement that is intentional reprograms your relationship with your body. It teaches you to inhabit your physical self instead of abandoning it when emotions rise. When you move with presence, you reclaim parts of yourself that were numbed or ignored. This embodiment strengthens acceptance because it connects you to your lived experience. The body also teaches patience. You cannot force the body to relax. You can only allow relaxation. This mirrors the reality of acceptance. You cannot force surrender. You can only lean into it. Watching your body gradually soften reminds you that letting go is a process, not a command. The body teaches you to honor the pace of your own healing. It shows you where resistance still lives and where trust has begun to grow. Acceptance through the body also changes how you relate to stress. Stress becomes something you can feel without collapsing into worry. You sense the tension rise. You breathe. You soften. And you let it move through. Instead of spiraling into mental panic, you allow the body to guide you into calm. This builds resilience. You realize you can handle discomfort without controlling your environment. Over time, your body becomes a partner instead of a prisoner. You stop using it as a storage unit for suppressed emotions. You stop punishing it with tension. You stop ignoring its signals. You listen to it. You support it. You work with it. And as this relationship heals, the mind becomes more peaceful than any amount of thinking could create. This physical surrender has a profound effect on your identity. You no longer feel like someone fighting life. You feel like someone moving with life. The body learns to trust the present moment. The nervous system learns to rest. The breath becomes anchored. The mind follows this new stability. Thoughts become clearer. Emotions become lighter. And acceptance becomes embodied rather than intellectual. And in this embodied acceptance, you discover something life-changing. You don't need to control life to feel safe. You only need to feel safe in your own body. As you begin to feel the body soften and release patterns that have held you for years, you start noticing something subtle but powerful. Even when the body relaxes and the breath opens, there are moments when tension still rises. Not from fear, not from trauma, not from timing, but from your expectations about how life should be. These expectations are invisible, yet they shape your reactions more than any external event. They sit beneath your thoughts like silent rules, creating frustration, disappointment, and pressure. This is where the next layer of acceptance begins. There is a kind of suffering that grows not from what happens, but from the belief that what happened is wrong simply because it does not match your inner script. You carry hidden rules. People should behave a certain way. Conversations should unfold smoothly. Plans should go as intended. Emotions should appear or disappear on command. Relationships should meet your needs effortlessly. And life should be fair, predictable, and aligned with your desires. These rules feel normal because they form quietly over years, but they create an invisible cage you live inside without realizing it. Expectations turn neutral moments into painful ones. A person arrives late, and irritation rises because they should be on time. A friend forgets something important, and hurt appears because they should have remembered. Someone speaks sharply, and you feel offended because they should talk more kindly. A plan changes, and frustration takes over because things should follow the original path. The world becomes exhausting not because it is unkind, but because it refuses to obey your internal rule book. Releasing these expectations does not mean lowering your standards or accepting mistreatment. It means seeing the difference between what is reasonable to request and what is unrealistic to demand. A request is flexible. A demand is rigid. Requests allow room for human nature. Demands collapse under the weight of reality. When you release the shoulds and replace them with preferences, your emotional world becomes lighter. You can still want things to go a certain way, but you stop believing they must. These hidden rules often come from fear and past pain. If you grew up in chaos, you may expect life to be ordered to feel safe. If you grew up feeling unseen, you may expect others to understand your needs without being told. If you grew up judged, you may expect perfection from yourself to avoid criticism. These expectations are attempts to control outcomes, but they trap you inside patterns that hurt more than they help. One powerful step in releasing expectations is recognizing how often they create tension in your relationships. You expect others to read your mind, to feel what you feel, to prioritize what you prioritize, to apologize the way you want, to show love the way you prefer, to respond with the exact emotional timing you need. When they don't, your hidden rules turn into disappointment. But people cannot live inside rules they never agreed to. When you release these invisible demands, connection becomes more real and less strained. You begin accepting people as they are instead of trying to reshape them into your expectations. Another layer of expectation involves your relationship with yourself. You pressure yourself with internal demands. You should be stronger, calmer, more productive, more confident, more successful, more healed. You should never make mistakes. You should never feel insecure. These internal shoulds create constant pressure. When you fail to meet them, as everyone eventually does, you attack yourself. But your worth does not grow from meeting unrealistic expectations. Your worth is already present. Releasing harsh self-demands is a form of emotional freedom. Expectations also shape your reaction to the world. You expect life to be predictable, smooth, and fair. When difficulties arise, your expectations make the situation feel worse. The mind says, "This shouldn't be happening." But suffering comes from resisting reality, not from the event itself. Life has never followed a strict script. When you stop demanding that it should, your ability to adapt grows. You face challenges with clarity instead of resistance. Another area affected by expectations is emotional expression. You might expect yourself to feel good all the time or to move through emotions quickly, but emotions follow their own rhythm. They cannot be controlled through expectations. When you allow yourself to feel without judgment, acceptance replaces self-criticism. The body relaxes, the mind softens, healing becomes more natural. Releasing expectations also means letting go of entitlement. Not in a moral sense, but in an emotional sense. The belief that life owes you ease, that people owe you understanding, that circumstances owe you comfort, creates disappointment. Life owes nothing, yet it gives endlessly. People owe nothing, yet they offer when they can. When entitlement dissolves, gratitude expands. You begin noticing what is present instead of mourning what is not. Letting go of expectations does not make you passive. It makes you wise. You still hold values. You still make choices. You still have preferences. But you stop tying your peace to outcomes. You stop rigidly clinging to how life should unfold. This flexibility allows you to move with life instead of against it. This shift also reveals how expectations distort perception. When reality does not match your inner rules, you see the moment through frustration instead of clarity. When you release the rules, you see the moment as it is, not as something failing to meet your standards. Seeing clearly is one of the deepest forms of freedom. Releasing expectations also strengthens your relationships with yourself and others. When you no longer demand perfection, compassion grows. When you no longer expect immediate change, patience develops. When you no longer insist that things unfold your way, harmony begins. This does not mean letting go of boundaries. Boundaries protect your peace. Expectations restrict your peace. They are not the same. Letting go of shoulds also creates emotional space. You stop carrying disappointment about things no one ever promised. You stop resenting people for being human. You stop criticizing yourself for not meeting impossible standards. You create room for acceptance, understanding, and self-respect. Eventually, you realize something profound: life is easier than the prison your expectations created. People become easier to love. You become easier to live with. Moments become easier to experience. Peace grows naturally when you stop demanding that life fit into a shape it was never designed to hold. And once these invisible rules dissolve, you begin walking through the world with a lighter heart, ready for the next shift in your journey. As you release the silent rules that once dictated how life should look, something unexpected begins to surface. Without the weight of constant shoulds, the world becomes simpler. But that simplicity can feel unfamiliar. You notice how much of your life was spent chasing something extraordinary, something dramatic, something meaningful enough to justify your efforts. And as those expectations fall away, a quiet question rises. What if life doesn't need to be extraordinary at all? This question opens the next chapter. There is a hidden pressure in modern life that tells you ordinary moments are not enough. You're taught to seek significance, to build stories worth telling, to create a life that looks impressive from the outside. The pursuit of meaning becomes constant. Every day must be productive. Every relationship must be profound. Every emotion must have a lesson. Every moment must be special. But this constant search for intensity creates exhaustion. It takes you away from the simple truth that peace often lives in the ordinary. Chasing drama, purpose, or heightened meaning pulls you out of the present. You feel restless when nothing spectacular is happening. You judge yourself for days that feel simple or uneventful. You begin to believe you're missing out or falling behind if your life doesn't resemble the exciting fantasies you see in stories, films, or other people's highlights. But ordinary life is not a failure. It is the natural state of existence. The pressure to make every moment extraordinary creates suffering because it contradicts the reality of how life unfolds. Ordinary life is built from small moments. Quiet mornings, simple meals, everyday conversations, familiar routines. These moments may not look impressive, but they hold the foundation of stability and peace. When you start valuing them, you discover something profound. The present moment becomes enough. You stop searching for life somewhere else and start engaging with the life right in front of you. The discomfort many people feel with ordinariness comes from associating it with insignificance. They believe meaning must come from big achievements, dramatic emotions, or major transformation. But some of the deepest wisdom arises from the simplicity of living fully in each small moment. Peace is not found in intensity. Peace is found in presence. When you let life be ordinary, you stop demanding it fulfill an exaggerated expectation of constant excitement. When you stop chasing extraordinary experiences, your nervous system relaxes. You feel less urgency, less pressure, less comparison. You stop measuring your life against unrealistic standards. Ordinary moments become beautiful because they are real, consistent, and accessible. They don't require effort to create. They simply exist, waiting for you to notice them. Letting life be ordinary also helps you let go of emotional addiction. Many people become attached to emotional highs and lows because they make life feel meaningful. Drama becomes a substitute for depth. Intense emotions feel alive even when they are painful. But living on the edge of emotional extremes creates instability. It drains your energy. It disrupts your peace. Ordinary emotional states, a calm day, a steady mood, a simple joy, offer a more grounded kind of meaning. Allowing ordinariness does not remove purpose. It clarifies it. Instead of searching for meaning in grand gestures, you find meaning in consistency, kindness, small improvements, quiet acts of love, and the steady growth of your inner world. Meaning becomes woven into daily living instead of being chased as a separate goal. Another benefit of embracing the ordinary is the shift in how you view your progress. When you expect dramatic breakthroughs, slow growth feels disappointing. But real growth is gradual. It happens in small shifts, subtle realizations, and everyday choices. When you stop looking for sudden transformation, you start recognizing the progress you've already made. You appreciate the patience it takes to evolve. Ordinary living also deepens connection. When you are not trying to turn every interaction into something significant, relationships feel more natural. You enjoy simple conversations without overanalyzing. You appreciate someone's presence without needing perfect alignment. You stop expecting people to give your life meaning and start enjoying them for who they are. This creates authenticity. Letting life be ordinary also softens self-judgment. When you stop expecting yourself to live a remarkable story every day, you free yourself from pressure. You no longer feel the need to be extraordinary to feel worthy. You allow yourself to rest, breathe, and be human. This acceptance creates emotional space. It strengthens self-respect. Even productivity becomes healthier. When every day doesn't need to be groundbreaking, you stop pushing yourself into burnout. You work steadily instead of desperately. You measure success by consistency rather than intensity. This shift creates long-term stability instead of short bursts of effort that leave you drained. Ordinary moments also teach presence. When you're not looking for the next big thing, you start seeing the details. Warm light on a wall, the sound of someone laughing, the feeling of the breeze, the comfort of familiar routines. These small things were always there, but chasing meaning made them invisible. When you stop searching for more, you finally notice what already exists. Letting life be ordinary also heals the part of you that felt empty when life felt predictable. That emptiness was not caused by ordinariness. It was caused by resisting it. Once you accept the rhythm of everyday life, you discover that predictability brings peace, stability brings safety, familiarity brings warmth. The ordinary is not the enemy. It is the foundation on which everything meaningful is built. This acceptance also helps you release comparison. When you're no longer chasing a dramatic life, you stop comparing your journey to others. You realize that everyone is living a life filled with small moments, no matter how glamorous it appears from the outside. Comparison loses its power when you value your own daily experience. Embracing the ordinary is not about lowering your expectations. It is about freeing yourself from unrealistic ones. It is about understanding that life is not meant to be a constant highlight reel. It is about recognizing that peace comes not from constant stimulation, but from being rooted where you are. When you allow life to be ordinary, something extraordinary happens. You become grounded. You become content. You become able to see your own life clearly. You stop searching for meaning and start experiencing it. The ordinary becomes enough. And in that enoughness, you find the peace you've been chasing across big moments for far too long. As you learn to rest in the simplicity of everyday life, another truth begins to surface, one that touches some of the deepest pockets of human discomfort. Simplicity quiets the need for drama, but it also exposes something the mind has tried to outrun for years: the need for answers. The need to understand why something happened, why someone acted the way they did, why a moment unfolded differently than you expected. And beneath that need lies an even heavier truth: much of life will never offer explanations. Many chapters will not close neatly. Many relationships will not end cleanly. Many questions will remain unanswered. This is the next place your journey leads. There is a particular kind of suffering that comes from trying to complete stories that life left unfinished. You replay conversations that ended abruptly. You analyze motives you will never fully understand. You search for clarity from people who have already left. You look for closure from moments that gave none. The mind hates incompleteness. It wants everything wrapped in certainty, logic, and finality. But life is full of partial truths, unresolved emotions, sudden endings, and mysteries you were never meant to decipher. Accepting incomplete stories is one of the most difficult forms of acceptance because it asks you to surrender not only control, but understanding. The ego believes that knowing the reason will ease the pain. It believes that understanding someone's intentions will bring peace. It believes that with enough analysis, the discomfort will disappear. But more often than not, searching for answers that don't exist only deepens the wound. It keeps you trapped inside the moment, revisiting it again and again, hoping it will finally reveal what it cannot. Many of the stories that trouble you most involve other people's motives. You want to know why someone changed, why they pulled away, why they acted inconsistently, why they hurt you, why they didn't choose you, why they weren't honest, why they couldn't meet you where you were. But people are shaped by wounds, fears, histories, and patterns they may not understand themselves. Expecting a complete explanation from them is like expecting a storm to explain why it rained. Human behavior is complex, layered, and often unconscious. Some people will never be able to articulate their motives because they don't fully know them. Acceptance does not mean their actions were justified. It means recognizing that understanding may never come, and choosing peace anyway. It means releasing the expectation that someone else must give you closure. It means giving yourself permission to move forward without every piece of the story filled in. Another layer of incomplete stories involves your own past. There are choices you made without full clarity. There are moments you regret but cannot rewrite. There are paths you walked without knowing where they would lead. The mind tries to make sense of these decisions by creating narratives. Some harsh, some dramatic, some filled with self-blame. But the truth is, you will never fully understand your past self from the perspective of who you are now. You were different then. Less aware, less experienced, more afraid, more hopeful. Expecting perfect logic from your past self ignores the reality that growth happens through imperfection, not foresight. When you accept that certain questions about your past will remain unanswered, you release yourself from the burden of endlessly examining what cannot be changed. You begin to trust the person you were, even if you don't fully understand every action you took. You see your past with compassion instead of analysis. Incomplete stories also exist in the form of sudden endings. Friendships that faded, opportunities that disappeared, relationships that dissolved without clarity, chapters that closed without warning. The mind often interprets these unfinished endings as personal failures. But sometimes endings occur because the story reached its natural point of departure. People grow in different directions. Opportunities shift. Circumstances evolve. Some endings happen not because something went wrong, but because the story had served its purpose. Accepting this truth allows you to stop searching for explanations that were never yours to find. There is also the discomfort of ambiguous moments. Times when you misread someone's intentions or when they misread yours. Times when connection felt real but never fully became what it could have been. Times when timing was off. Times when both people wanted more but couldn't align. These moments create questions that may never be answered. Accepting ambiguity means acknowledging that life is not a clean sequence of cause and effect. It is a web of timing, emotion, circumstance, and unseen factors. When you stop fighting ambiguity, you begin to see beauty in the mystery. Not knowing becomes less frightening. You realize that incomplete stories do not mean your life is incomplete. They simply mean your journey is still unfolding. Accepting incomplete stories also strengthens your ability to be present. Much of rumination comes from trying to make sense of what already happened. Much of anxiety comes from trying to predict what will happen next. When you accept that many stories in your life will remain unfinished, you free yourself from the need to mentally control them. You return to the present with more ease because the past no longer demands constant analysis. Another aspect of this acceptance is understanding that closure is something you give yourself. It does not depend on someone else's explanation, apology, or clarity. Closure happens when you stop searching for reasons and begin focusing on what you can carry with peace. It happens when you stop needing the story to be complete in order to move forward. It happens when you allow yourself to walk away from a chapter even when you don't know the full truth. Accepting incomplete stories also deepens emotional maturity. You stop expecting perfect communication from others. You stop expecting logic from emotional situations. You stop expecting fairness from unpredictable events. You recognize that life's complexity cannot be simplified into clean narratives. This maturity allows you to meet life with clarity rather than disappointment. This acceptance does not make you cold or indifferent. It makes you grounded. It makes you capable of experiencing life without demanding explanations. It helps you navigate loss, confusion, and change with patience. When you release the need to know everything, you create space for peace, curiosity, and openness. In the end, incomplete stories do not diminish your life. They enrich it. They remind you that you are part of something bigger than understanding. They show you that mystery is not a flaw, it is the nature of existence. And when you stop demanding closure from every moment, you begin to experience life with a softness that brings peace to the deepest parts of you. As you begin to make peace with unanswered questions and accept that many chapters in life will never be neatly resolved, something deeper comes into focus. Beneath every incomplete story lies another attachment you may not have noticed, the attachment to the story you tell about yourself. The narrative you've been carrying for years, quietly shaping how you see the world, how you treat yourself, what you believe you deserve, and what you think you're capable of. This is where the next layer of transformation begins. There is a powerful but often invisible force within you, your identity narrative. It is the story you repeat about who you are, where you come from, what you've survived, and what you believe is possible for someone like you. Parts of this story feel comforting because they give you a sense of continuity. Other parts feel painful because they keep reminding you of old wounds. And some parts limit you without you ever realizing it. These narratives shape your reactions, your relationships, your dreams, and your fears, often without your conscious awareness. Identity forms from experiences, but the mind tends to freeze these experiences into fixed definitions. Something that happened years ago becomes who you are. A single mistake becomes your weakness. A painful relationship becomes your pattern. A moment of failure becomes your nature. Over time, these definitions stack on top of each other, forming an internal image you carry around like a shadow. But the truth is that most of this image is outdated. It belongs to a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. This attachment to old identity narratives creates suffering because it limits your ability to grow. When you define yourself too narrowly, you interpret every new experience through old filters. If you tell yourself you're unworthy, you overlook opportunities. If you tell yourself you're broken, you misinterpret moments of vulnerability. If you tell yourself you're unlucky, you expect disappointment. If you tell yourself you're too sensitive, you suppress your emotions. These narratives are not truths. They are habits. One of the most important steps in detaching from identity narratives is recognizing how often they appear automatically. You may feel a certain emotion and instantly attach meaning to it. This always happens to me. You may face a challenge and immediately reinforce an identity. I'm not good at this. You may receive feedback and turn it into a story of inadequacy. I never do anything right. These reflexive thoughts are old scripts running without your permission. When you notice these narratives, you begin to see how deeply they influence your self-concept. The moment you create space between the story and the present moment, the story loses its authority. You start to realize that you are not your patterns. You are not your mistakes. You are not the wounds you inherited or the ones you created. You are the awareness noticing these things. Detaching from identity does not mean erasing your past. It means seeing that your past does not define your future. Your experiences shaped you, but they do not own you. They taught you lessons, but they do not limit you. They affected you, but they do not imprison you. Another key part of loosening identity narratives is understanding that the self is constantly changing. Every experience shifts you. Every conversation influences you. Every insight expands you. Every act of acceptance transforms you. The person you were even 1 year ago is not the person you are now. Yet the mind clings to its old story because familiarity feels safer than possibility. The fear of shedding old identity often comes from uncertainty. If you are not who you thought you were, then who are you? The mind fears this question because it threatens its sense of structure. But this fear is actually a doorway. When you no longer cling to fixed definitions, you begin to experience yourself more fluidly. You allow growth. You allow change. You allow the unknown spaces within you to reveal themselves. This freedom shows up in surprising ways. You stop taking your reactions as proof of who you are. You see them as temporary weather, not permanent traits. You stop treating your past as destiny. You see it as a chapter, not a sentence. You stop believing your flaws define your identity. You see them as areas of growth, not evidence of failure. Detaching from identity narratives also changes how you relate to others. When you stop clinging to your story, you stop needing others to validate it. You no longer require them to see you a certain way. You no longer defend yourself reflexively. You no longer shape your behavior to fit an image. This freedom creates authenticity. You relate to others from presence rather than ego. It also softens conflict. When someone challenges your viewpoint, you no longer interpret it as an attack on your identity. You can listen without defensiveness. You can understand without losing yourself. You can respond without projection. This creates harmony within relationships because you are no longer protecting a fragile self-image. Detaching from identity opens space for growth. When you release the narrative that you are this type of person, you become open to being more. You try things you once avoided. You allow yourself to evolve in unexpected directions. You discover strengths you never believed you had. Identity becomes a flexible expression rather than a rigid prison. Another essential part of this shift is recognizing the difference between identity and authenticity. Identity is constructed. Authenticity is natural. Identity is built from memory. Authenticity is present moment truth. Identity is shaped by fear, approval, and conditioning. Authenticity arises when you stop performing and allow yourself to simply be. When identity loosens, authenticity emerges without effort. This shift also reveals the illusion of labels. Labels create certainty but limit possibility. When you let go of labels, introvert, extrovert, failure, achiever, emotional, logical, strong, weak, you discover that you are far more complex than any category. Labels may describe aspects of you, but they do not define the whole of you. The more you detach from labels, the more fluid your self-concept becomes. The freedom of realizing you aren't your story also dissolves shame. Shame thrives when you believe the worst moments of your life are reflections of your nature. But when you see them as experiences rather than identity, shame loses power. You become capable of forgiving yourself. You understand that mistakes are part of being human, not evidence of brokenness. This acceptance also heals self-judgment. You stop attacking yourself for who you were. You stop punishing yourself for who you no longer want to be. You stop demanding perfection. You allow yourself to exist without needing a story to justify your worth. Ultimately, detaching from identity narratives leads to a new sense of self, one that is spacious, flexible, and grounded. You begin to experience yourself not as a fixed character, but as a living, breathing, evolving consciousness. You stop trying to define yourself and instead allow yourself to unfold. And in that unfolding, you discover the deepest truth of all: you are not your story. You are the awareness capable of rewriting it. As you loosen your grip on the story of who you think you are, something profound begins to open inside you. Without the weight of fixed identity, a new question naturally rises: if I am not defined by my past or my labels, how do I grow from here? For most of your life, growth was tied to effort, trying harder, pushing yourself, striving to improve, forcing change. But now, with your old narratives dissolving, you begin to sense that real transformation does not come from pressure. It comes from honesty, from stillness, from accepting exactly where you are before trying to become anything more. This is where the next shift unfolds. There is a quiet truth hidden at the heart of self-improvement: growth cannot begin from denial. You cannot evolve while pretending to be further ahead than you are. You cannot transform while resisting your current limitations. You cannot expand while judging yourself for not being already expanded. Real growth begins only when you stop fighting your starting point. Acceptance of where you stand becomes the foundation for everything that follows. Most people misunderstand growth. They believe improvement comes from pushing against themselves, forcing habits, demanding change, punishing flaws, and treating their humanity like a problem to solve. This approach creates exhaustion, not evolution. The harder you push, the tighter the resistance becomes. Force creates tension, and tension locks you into the very patterns you want to escape. Unforced growth is different. It begins with radical self-honesty. The willingness to see yourself clearly without running, hiding, or pretending. It means acknowledging your fears without shame, your weaknesses without self-attack, your patterns without collapse, your wounds without dramatizing them. This kind of honesty is not harsh. It is gentle. It allows you to breathe. It allows you to meet yourself as you are, not as who you think you should be. Accepting your limitations does not keep you stuck. It frees you. When you accept your limits, you stop wasting energy on denial. You stop pretending to be okay when you're not. You stop forcing progress you're not ready for. This acceptance makes space for natural growth because your energy is no longer tied up in self-judgment. Instead, it becomes available for learning, healing, and transformation. Progress becomes smoother when you stop trying to leap forward and instead take the step that's actually available. You may want confidence, but maybe the next step is simply speaking honestly. You may want inner peace, but maybe the next step is noticing when tension rises. You may want discipline, but maybe the next step is creating one small habit instead of designing a perfect routine. Growth becomes sustainable when it matches your capacity rather than your ideals. This acceptance-based approach reflects the Buddhist principle of non-striving. Non-striving does not mean being passive. It means releasing the belief that force creates change. It means trusting that growth unfolds naturally when conditions are right. Just as a flower blooms when its soil, sunlight, and water are sufficient, you do not pull the petals open. You cultivate the conditions, and the blooming happens on its own. Your inner world works the same way. When you stop attacking your flaws and begin supporting your well-being, growth becomes organic. Instead of pushing yourself to become someone else, you create a nurturing environment for the person you are to evolve. This shift from force to support transforms your entire relationship with improvement. Unforced growth also requires patience. Growth happens in cycles: expansion, plateau, integration, rest. Many people think plateaus mean failure, but plateaus are essential for absorbing what you've learned. Rest is essential for healing. Integration is essential for long-term change. When you expect constant progress, you fight these natural cycles. When you accept them, your growth becomes steady instead of frantic. There is also a deep humility in unforced growth. Humility allows you to say, "This is where I am. This is what I can do today." Humility removes the ego from the process. It allows you to be a student of your own life. It opens the door to curiosity, which is far more powerful than pressure. Curiosity makes growth enjoyable. It turns self-improvement into exploration instead of self-correction. Another part of this shift is releasing comparison. When you measure your progress against others, you distort your path. Everyone grows at a different pace, shaped by different histories, wounds, opportunities, and lessons. Accepting your own timing allows you to grow without the heaviness of competition or shame. It brings clarity because you stop trying to match someone else's journey and instead focus on your own. Unforced growth also reveals the importance of small changes. Major breakthroughs are rare. The real transformation happens in small choices. Choosing honesty over avoidance, presence over distraction, softness over tension, patience over panic. These small shifts accumulate. They create momentum. They change your inner landscape one moment at a time. When you stop demanding massive change, you start noticing how powerful these small steps are. Accepting your limitations also helps you build resilience. When you stop resisting your own capacity, setbacks no longer feel like proof of failure. They become part of the process. You learn from them instead of collapsing into them. You adapt instead of breaking. Resilience grows not from avoiding struggle, but from meeting it without judgment. This approach changes your relationship with effort itself. Instead of pushing yourself until you burn out, you engage effort wisely. You listen to your body. You recognize emotional limits. You rest when needed. Effort becomes purposeful instead of punishing. You take action from a grounded place, not from insecurity. This makes your growth sustainable. Unforced growth also deepens self-compassion. Compassion is not indulgence. It is the recognition that harshness has never created lasting change. Compassion supports growth because it keeps your heart open. It prevents you from quitting when things get hard. It helps you forgive yourself when you fall short. It reminds you that you are worthy even when you struggle. As you integrate this kind of growth, you begin to understand that becoming better is not about chasing an improved version of yourself. It is about removing the obstacles that prevent your natural potential from unfolding. Your inner self is already capable of growth, insight, and transformation. Acceptance clears the way. Eventually, you reach a point where growth no longer feels like self-improvement. It feels like self-remembering. The more you accept your current limits, the more you discover what has always been possible. You stop trying to become someone else and start becoming more fully yourself. And in that gentle unfolding, you finally realize something essential: growth is not achieved through force. It is revealed through acceptance. As you begin to grow without force and embrace your own limits with honesty and compassion, another truth starts rising into view. One that challenges some of the deepest assumptions you've carried about relationships. You begin to see that much of your suffering did not come from who people were, but from who you believed they should become. And as you soften toward yourself, the next step becomes unavoidable: learning to soften toward the true nature of others. This is where a profound kind of freedom begins. There is a quiet exhaustion that comes from trying to change people. Trying to make someone kinder, more aware, more responsible, more emotionally intelligent, more communicative, more stable, more ambitious, more expressive, more patient. You may not have said these desires out loud, but you carried them in the form of expectations. You believed that with enough effort, guidance, or love, people would eventually become who you needed them to be. But human personality is not clay you can shape. Much of who a person is comes from traits rooted deeply: temperament, history, values, emotional style, coping patterns, and ways of seeing the world formed long before you met them. Accepting this reality brings a new kind of peace, not because you stop caring, but because you stop fighting what you cannot change. This acceptance does not mean tolerating harmful behavior. It means recognizing the difference between a preference and a pattern. Preferences can shift. Patterns often remain. When you stop trying to turn someone into a version that fits your emotional needs, you make space for clarity, either genuine connection or gentle distance. One of the most liberating truths you can accept is that people show you who they are consistently, not occasionally. Their habits, reactions, and emotional tendencies reveal their inner landscape far more than their promises or temporary efforts. When you accept this, you stop reading potential into behavior. You stop idealizing small improvements and overlooking recurring patterns. You stop hoping that if you just try harder, they will change. You begin relating to the actual person in front of you, not the imagined version your hope created. Accepting the nature of others also reveals how much emotional weight you've been carrying on your shoulders. Many people attempt to become emotional caretakers, helping partners regulate their moods, carrying friends' responsibilities, smoothing over tensions, trying to fix misunderstandings before they happen. This creates emotional burnout. You begin believing people need you to keep functioning. But when you accept their nature, you release yourself from the burden of managing their inner world. You recognize that their personality belongs to them, not to you. This shift also transforms conflict. When you accept someone's nature, you stop expecting them to respond differently every time. You stop being surprised by predictable behavior. You stop taking things personally. Instead of fighting the same emotional battles repeatedly, you understand the patterns. This understanding creates calm. It lets you decide consciously how close or distant to be from someone instead of staying in cycles of disappointment. Another part of this acceptance is recognizing that traits are neither good nor bad. They are simply traits. A person who is emotionally reserved is not wrong, they are reserved. A person who is intense is not wrong, they are intense. A person who avoids confrontation is not wrong, they cope that way. You may prefer certain traits, but preferences do not make other traits defective. Acceptance is the ability to see differences without judgment. This view also helps you let go of unrealistic expectations in relationships. You stop expecting a quiet person to suddenly become expressive. You stop expecting an avoidant person to suddenly seek closeness. You stop expecting a chaotic person to suddenly become structured. When you accept this, frustration dissolves. You no longer feel betrayed by behavior that has always been consistent. You start making choices based on reality instead of fantasy. Accepting the nature of others does not mean staying in relationships that hurt you. It means seeing clearly whether the relationship is sustainable. If someone's personality consistently triggers your wounds, conflicts with your values, or contradicts your emotional needs, acceptance helps you make a peaceful decision. You no longer argue with their nature. You simply recognize that your paths differ. This clarity is not cold, it's compassionate. It honors both you and them. This acceptance also deepens your compassion. When you stop expecting people to be who they are not, you begin to see the human behind the habit. You see how their traits formed. You see the fears that drive them. You see the wounds they carry. You see the childhood imprints that shape their coping mechanisms. This understanding allows compassion to flow without enabling harmful patterns. It lets you love people more gently, with fewer demands, fewer conditions, and more space. Accepting others also helps you take responsibility for your emotional boundaries. When you understand someone's nature, you know which boundaries are needed to protect your peace. You stop waiting for them to change and instead choose actions that support your well-being. Boundaries become easier to enforce because they are no longer battles. They are decisions rooted in clarity. This acceptance also creates healthier expectations. You begin to ask yourself, can I accept this person as they are if nothing changes? If the answer is yes, peace follows. If the answer is no, clarity follows. You no longer stay in emotional limbo, hoping time will turn someone into a different version. You step out of the waiting room of potential and into the reality of presence. Another surprising effect is that accepting the nature of others helps them open up. When people stop feeling pressured to be different, they relax. They become more authentic. They feel safer around you because they sense they are not being judged. Sometimes this acceptance even allows them to grow, not because you pushed them, but because your acceptance removed resistance. Growth that comes from freedom, not pressure, is the most genuine form of change. And perhaps the most profound truth of all, accepting the nature of others teaches you to accept your own nature. When you stop demanding perfection from others, you stop demanding it from yourself. When you stop forcing change in others, you stop forcing unnatural change in yourself. When you let people be who they are, you begin to feel free to be who you are. As you stop trying to reshape people into versions that match your hopes, something even more subtle becomes visible. Beneath your expectations of others lies an even older attachment, your expectations of life itself. You begin to notice how often disappointment has shaken you, not because life was cruel, but because life failed to match an ideal you secretly carried. This is where the next layer of freedom begins. A truth both uncomfortable and liberating: life will disappoint you. And allowing it to do so is not a failure. It is the doorway to a different kind of joy. There is a grief that comes from being human. The grief of realizing life is not the polished vision you once imagined. Plans fall apart. People make choices you didn't expect. Success arrives slower than you hoped. Healing takes longer than you wanted. Dreams evolve into something different or dissolve entirely. Life in its raw and natural form rarely follows the storyline of your idealism. And yet, this mismatch between reality and ideal is not what causes suffering. It is your resistance to it. Idealism can be beautiful. It can inspire growth, creativity, and vision. But when idealism hardens into demand, it becomes painful. You begin believing life should unfold a certain way. You believe people should treat you a certain way. You believe your progress should look a certain way. These beliefs feel noble, even motivating, but they become traps. The pain doesn't come from life disappointing you. It comes from believing it shouldn't. Allowing life to disappoint you begins with the courage to see things as they are instead of how you wish they were. This doesn't mean giving up hope or abandoning dreams. It means releasing the belief that joy can only come when life fits a perfect image. When you allow disappointment to exist without fighting it, something unexpected happens. Your relationship with life becomes real, grounded, and more peaceful than idealism could ever offer. The first step is understanding that disappointment is part of the human experience, not a personal punishment. Everyone faces moments where reality contradicts their expectations. The more you try to protect yourself from this truth, the more fragile your happiness becomes. Idealism creates a brittle emotional system, one that collapses at the slightest deviation from your imagined path. When you drop the demand that life be perfect, disappointment becomes manageable. You feel it, you acknowledge it, and you move forward without letting it define the story of your life. Another important part of allowing disappointment is recognizing how often expectations are inherited, not chosen. Society teaches you ideals about success, love, timelines, happiness, and identity. You internalize these ideals and measure yourself against them without ever stopping to ask whether they match your deeper truth. When life doesn't align with these borrowed expectations, you feel like you failed, but you only failed a standard that was never yours. Letting go of these ideals allows you to build a life that suits you rather than one shaped by external pressure. Allowing disappointment also reveals the difference between desire and attachment. You can desire things: a better career, deeper love, more inner peace, without becoming attached to the idea that they must appear exactly when and how you want. Attachment leads to suffering. Desire without attachment leads to clarity. When disappointment comes, you don't collapse into despair. You simply adjust, learn, and continue walking forward with openness instead of rigidity. This shift also transforms your relationship with emotions. Idealism often suppresses uncomfortable emotions because they don't fit the perfect life narrative. Disappointment becomes something to avoid, hide, or deny. But when you allow disappointment, you permit yourself to feel honestly. This honesty deepens your emotional maturity. You no longer pretend to be okay when you're not. You no longer force positivity. You become grounded, not through avoidance, but through authenticity. Allowing life to disappoint you also protects your heart from cynicism. People often swing from idealism to bitterness when life doesn't match their expectations. They blame themselves or the world. But bitterness is just idealism with a broken heart. True acceptance avoids both extremes. It lets you see life clearly without giving up on its beauty. This mindset leads to a more grounded form of joy. Not the fragile joy that depends on perfect circumstances, but a steady joy that exists even when things don't go your way. When you stop insisting that life be flawless, you begin noticing the small joys that were always present but overlooked, the comfort of routine, the kindness in small moments, the simplicity of ordinary days. This joy is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, stable, and deeply fulfilling. Letting life disappoint you also strengthens resilience. When you accept that disappointment is natural, you recover faster. You stop personalizing setbacks. You stop spiraling when things go wrong. Disappointment becomes something you can experience without losing your center. This resilience makes you more courageous. You take risks without the fear of emotional collapse. You pursue dreams without clinging to guarantees. You trust yourself to handle whatever outcomes arise. Another powerful benefit of releasing idealism is that relationships become healthier. Idealized expectations of perfect communication, flawless understanding, constant emotional harmony destroy connection. When you allow others to disappoint you without turning them into villains, you relate more realistically. You stop expecting perfection from human beings who are learning, growing, and stumbling just like you. This acceptance creates deeper connection because love becomes rooted in reality, not fantasy. Your relationship with yourself changes too. You stop punishing yourself for not meeting impossible standards. You stop expecting yourself to always feel motivated, inspired, confident, or healed. You make room for your humanity. You allow yourself to feel tired, confused, uncertain, or flawed. Self-acceptance grows when idealism fades. Allowing disappointment does not mean surrendering to hopelessness. Quite the opposite, it creates space for real hope. Hope rooted in truth rather than fantasy. Hope that survives setbacks. Hope flexible enough to adapt. This kind of hope leads to meaningful fulfillment rather than constant frustration. Dropping idealism also opens you to the mystery of life. When you stop clinging to a specific storyline, you become available to experiences you didn't expect. Some of the most beautiful parts of life arise from surprises, paths you didn't plan, connections you didn't predict, changes you never imagined. Idealism blinds you to these possibilities because it tightens your vision. Acceptance widens your field of view. In the end, allowing life to disappoint you is not about lowering your standards. It is about releasing the illusion that joy depends on perfection. It is about giving yourself permission to embrace the real texture of life. Smooth and rough, predictable and chaotic, joyful and painful. When you drop idealism, you gain something far more valuable than perfection, a grounded, resilient, peaceful joy that life cannot take away. As you begin allowing life to disappoint you without collapsing into hopelessness, a new kind of strength starts to rise within you. You begin to see that acceptance is not weakness, and surrender is not defeat. Instead, a quiet steadiness emerges. A stability that does not depend on outcomes, timelines, or control. And this clarity reveals the next truth in your journey: choosing peace in a world that worships force is its own form of courage. There is a heroic quality in letting go that society rarely celebrates. You are taught to push harder, fight constantly, control everything, stay ahead, dominate challenges, and never show vulnerability. Strength, you are told, comes from overpowering life. But this version of strength leaves people exhausted, anxious, and disconnected from themselves. The kind of strength that brings true peace is quieter. So quiet that most people overlook it. It comes from surrendering what you cannot hold, releasing battles you were never meant to fight, and choosing inner stillness over external struggle. Choosing surrender requires courage because it goes against everything you were conditioned to believe. The world rewards control. You feel valued when you perform, accomplish, and maintain mastery. So when you choose to let go, your ego protests. It says if you don't fight harder, everything will fall apart. But letting go does not mean abandoning responsibility. It means abandoning resistance. It means releasing the illusion that you can force life into submission. It is the bravery of trusting life more than your fear. One of the first forms of this quiet heroism appears when you stop trying to control people. You let them walk their own paths without interfering. You allow them to learn their own lessons without rescuing them from the consequences. You stop manipulating outcomes in relationships and instead allow honesty and natural unfolding to guide connection. This requires courage because it means trusting that whatever falls away was not meant to stay, and whatever stays is aligned with who you truly are. Another form of heroism appears when you stop fighting your emotions. Instead of suppressing sadness, you allow it. Instead of resisting fear, you acknowledge it. Instead of hiding vulnerability, you accept it. This surrender is not passive. It is powerful. It takes courage to sit with your inner world without numbing, avoiding, or pretending. Many people run from their emotions for decades. Being present with them, even briefly, is a deeper act of bravery than any external achievement. Letting go also shows its strength when you stop forcing outcomes. You may have spent years pushing your life in directions that exhausted you, careers that drained you, relationships that stunted you, goals that didn't belong to you. Surrender means recognizing when force is no longer aligned. It means stepping back, reevaluating, and trusting that releasing the wrong path makes space for the right one. This trust requires bravery because it asks you to walk forward without guarantees. Another layer of this heroism emerges in stillness. Stillness is often misinterpreted as stagnation. But true stillness is active awareness. It means choosing not to react impulsively. It means pausing before speaking. It means breathing before responding. It means observing your thoughts before believing them. In a world addicted to speed and noise, stillness is a rebellion. It takes courage to be calm when everyone else panics, to be quiet when everyone else argues, to be thoughtful when everyone else rushes. The quiet heroism of letting go also appears when you accept uncertainty. Uncertainty is uncomfortable because it exposes the limits of your control. But when you stop resisting it, you begin to see that uncertainty is not a threat. It's a space. A space where new possibilities can form, where unexpected opportunities emerge, where personal growth can unfold. Accepting uncertainty is one of the bravest choices you can make because it means trusting your ability to navigate life rather than trusting your ability to control it. This courage deepens when you stop defining yourself by external achievements. When you are no longer driven by the need to prove your worth, you begin to act from authenticity rather than fear. Letting go of identity tied to performance is challenging because society equates accomplishment with value. But true freedom comes from recognizing your worth like a quiet flame, something that burns within you, steady and unshaken, regardless of external outcomes. Letting go also means releasing resentment, bitterness, and old emotional debts. Holding on to pain can feel like strength, but it is weight disguised as protection. Forgiveness, not the naive kind that ignores harm, but the wise kind that frees your heart, is one of the most courageous acts of surrender. It means choosing peace over punishment, clarity over pride, and healing over holding on. There is also courage in letting go of perfection. Allowing yourself to make mistakes, to learn slowly, to not always know what to do takes strength. Perfectionism is a cage built from fear. Surrendering it is an act of liberation. You begin giving yourself permission to be human, to grow at your own pace, to rest without guilt. This softness is not weakness. It is strength that no amount of pressure can create. Another quiet heroism appears in your relationship with time. Letting go of the idea that you're behind or running out of time is deeply brave. It means trusting that life's timing aligns with your evolution. It means refusing to rush your growth, your healing, your journey. It means honoring your unique pace rather than competing with others. Letting go also shows itself in the willingness to walk away from what harms your peace. Sometimes the bravest choice is to leave, not out of anger, but out of clarity. When you choose distance from environments, people, or habits that hurt you, you are choosing your life over your fears. This decision is quiet on the outside but monumental within. Ultimately, choosing surrender over struggle reveals a new kind of strength. One that does not need applause, recognition, or validation. It lives inside you like a patient flame. It makes you resilient in chaos, grounded in uncertainty, compassionate in difficulty, and open to life as it is. This quiet heroism is not loud or dramatic. It does not seek attention. It does not need to be noticed. It simply changes you. And through you, it changes everything around you. As you recognize the quiet courage in surrender, another realization begins to take shape. A realization that softens you even further. Every moment you let go, you notice that life continues without your constant direction. Things unfold in ways you never predicted. Peace arises from places you didn't expect. Solutions appear when you stop forcing them. And slowly, a deeper truth settles in: the present moment often knows far more than your plans ever could. This opens the way to the next teaching. There is a humility that comes from witnessing life's natural intelligence. You start seeing how often your attempts to control or overthink were unnecessary. How many moments worked out despite your fears. How many problems dissolved when you stopped interfering. How many outcomes unfolded in a way that made sense only in hindsight. The mind believes it must stay ahead of everything. But the present moment carries its own wisdom, subtle, quiet, precise. When you humble yourself to the moment rather than clinging to your plans, something extraordinary happens. The noise inside you begins to fade. Present moment humility is the willingness to accept that reality is unfolding exactly as it needs to, even when it contradicts your expectations. It is the understanding that your plans are limited by your past experiences and fears, while the present moment is shaped by countless factors your mind can't possibly grasp. When you acknowledge this, you stop insisting that life obey your mental timeline. You stop believing that your ideas of how things should go are superior to what is actually happening. One of the ways this humility dissolves suffering is by weakening overthinking. Overthinking is the mind's attempt to control a future it cannot see. It tries to predict outcomes, prevent mistakes, and eliminate uncertainty. But the present moment is not asking you to predict anything. It is simply asking you to be here. When you honor the now instead of escaping into imagined futures, the fear-driven need for control fades. The mind becomes quieter. You begin responding to life instead of rehearsing for scenarios that may never happen. Present moment humility also transforms regret. Regret arises when the mind reviews the past with the illusion that you should have known better. But the present moment shows you that you can only act with the awareness you had at the time. You could not have predicted everything that would unfold. You could not have known the lessons that would come later. When you accept the intelligence of the unfolding moment, you release the weight of regret. You understand that each choice, each mistake, each turn was part of your growth, guided by a wisdom deeper than your plans. This humility also changes the way you approach problems. When you stop demanding immediate solutions, your mind relaxes. And when the mind relaxes, clarity appears. Answers arise not from force, but from presence. Many solutions come when you are no longer fixated on finding them. Some appear during simple tasks, walking, breathing, resting, because the mind is finally quiet enough to hear the deeper wisdom that was always there. Present moment humility also teaches you to trust timing. You stop rushing experiences that are not ready. You stop pressuring yourself to grow faster. You stop trying to fix what needs time. This trust creates emotional spaciousness. You begin to see that life often unfolds at the exact pace necessary for your evolution. When you accept this, impatience softens, anxiety loosens, the urgency to control dissolves. This humility also impacts relationships. When you stop imposing your expectations on how interactions should go, you begin listening more deeply. You become more present, more attentive, more compassionate. You stop assuming you know what someone will say or how they will respond. This openness brings understanding and reduces conflict. It allows relationships to unfold naturally rather than being shaped by your internal script. Another important part of present moment humility is acknowledging that you do not always know what is best for you. There have been times you wanted something desperately, only to realize later it would have harmed you. Times you resisted change, only to find it led you somewhere better. Times you clung to a situation, only to understand later that letting go brought freedom. When you see this pattern clearly, humility becomes natural. You stop fighting the now. You stop believing that your desires always point in the right direction. Humility toward the present moment also frees you from compulsive planning. Planning has value, but when it becomes a constant attempt to control the unknown, it creates stress. Present moment humility teaches you that you only ever need to handle the moment you are in. The future is shaped through small steps taken in awareness, not through endless mental strategies. Life becomes simpler when you stop living in tomorrow and start honoring today. This humility also reduces emotional turbulence. Most emotional pain comes from resisting what is. When you accept the now, even if it is uncomfortable, you stop adding layers of fear, anger, or sadness. You feel what arises without collapsing into it. You allow the moment to be as it is, trusting that it will shift when it's time. This acceptance creates steadiness even during difficulty. Present moment humility also reconnects you with your intuition. When the mind quiets, your inner guidance becomes clearer. Intuition is subtle and easily drowned out by noise. It speaks through feelings, pulls, clarity, and quiet knowing. When you surrender your mental stories and rest in the now, this guidance grows stronger. It helps you sense the right step without needing certainty. Ultimately, present moment humility reveals that life has always been guiding you. Sometimes gently, sometimes painfully, but always toward growth. The now is smarter than your plans because it includes more truth than your mind can hold. It reflects your real capacities, your real needs, your real lessons. When you trust the now, you stop chasing illusions and start living with authenticity. This humility is not weakness. It is wisdom. It frees you from the exhausting task of trying to outthink life. It teaches you to meet the moment with openness instead of resistance. It reminds you that you don't need to be in control to be at peace. When you bow to the intelligence of the present moment, you stop struggling against reality. And in that surrender, you find a clarity your plans could never give you. As you begin to bow to the wisdom of the present moment, you notice something else hidden in plain sight. Even when you trust the now more than your plans, there are flashes where everything in you wants to react, to defend, to attack, to argue, to shut down, to say something sharp, to prove a point. These are the split seconds where peace is either protected or shattered. And in those brief moments, a new kind of practice becomes essential, the courage to stay still inside before you act outside. There is a gap in every moment of tension, a tiny space between what happens and what you do next. Most people never see it. They live as if stimulus and reaction are fused together. Someone speaks harshly, and the words fly back. A message stings, and a reply pours out. A trigger is pressed, and emotions explode. Later comes regret, confusion, and shame. I didn't mean to say that. I don't know why I reacted like that. The truth is, the reaction happened because there was no stillness before it. Non-reactivity is not numbness. It is not pretending you are unaffected. It is the discipline of feeling fully without being dragged by the first impulse. It is the choice to pause even when every cell in your body is urging you to move. This pause is not weakness. It is power. It is the moment where you decide whether you will let old patterns lead or let awareness lead. When tension rises, the body feels it first. Your chest tightens, your jaw hardens, your breath becomes shallow, your face heats up. These sensations are early warning signs, like a bell ringing to say something inside is about to react. Most people ignore the bell. Non-reactivity begins by listening to it. When you notice these signals and choose not to act immediately, you step out of autopilot. That decision alone begins to rewrite years of conditioning. This skill is rarely mastered because it requires you to sit in discomfort without trying to escape it. The impulse to react is often a way to discharge inner tension, to throw it outward in words, actions, or withdrawal. But when you stay still for a moment, you contain the energy long enough to understand it. You begin to see what is really happening underneath: hurt, fear, insecurity, pride, or old pain being poked. Once you see this, the urge to lash out softens. The situation becomes less about them and more about what is rising inside you. Breath is your anchor in these moments. One slow inhale, one slow exhale. Not as a trick to avoid emotion, but as a way to stay present with it. When you breathe consciously into tension, you give your nervous system a chance to calm itself. Your heart rate slows. Your body relaxes just enough for your mind to think clearly. That clarity lets you choose a response instead of collapsing into a reflex. Non-reactivity also protects your relationships. Many arguments do not come from what was said, but from how it was answered. A single reactive sentence can turn a small misunderstanding into a deep wound. When you practice the discipline of stillness before speaking, you give space for wisdom to enter. You may still address the issue, set a boundary, or express your hurt, but you do it from steadiness rather than chaos. The same message, spoken with a calm nervous system and a clear mind, lands very differently. This discipline does not mean staying silent forever. It does not mean allowing disrespect or pretending everything is fine. It means giving yourself enough stillness to see what truly needs to be said and what is merely your pain trying to spill outward. Sometimes the wisest response is to speak. Sometimes it is to step away. Sometimes it is to say, I need time to think. Non-reactivity is not about what you do. It is about the state you act from. You also begin to notice how much of your reactivity is rooted in older experiences. Someone's tone today may remind you of a voice from years ago. A small criticism may reopen an old wound of not feeling enough. Without stillness, this layering of past and present stays hidden. With stillness, you can separate them. You see that your reaction is bigger than the moment because it carries history. This awareness alone can shrink the intensity of your response. Practicing non-reactivity also transforms how you relate to your own thoughts. Not every thought deserves a reaction. Some are just echoes of old beliefs. Some are quick judgments that fade if you don't feed them. When you stop reacting to every thought as urgent, the mind becomes less chaotic. You respond only to what truly matters. You become less easily provoked by your own inner dialogue. Over time, this discipline builds a deep inner confidence. You know that even in heated moments, you will not automatically betray yourself. You might still make mistakes, but fewer. You might still speak from emotion, but with more awareness. You start trusting that you can hold your inner fire without letting it burn everything around you. This trust in yourself is one of the greatest gifts of non-reactivity. The world will continue to offer triggers. Sharp words, unexpected events, unfairness, misunderstandings. You cannot control that. But you can learn to guard the space between trigger and response as something sacred. That space is where your freedom lives. That is where your practice lives. That is where peace is either protected or surrendered. Each time you choose to pause instead of react, you are training your nervous system in a new way of being. Each time you breathe through tension instead of exploding, you are teaching your mind that it no longer has to live in survival mode. Each time you choose response over impulse, you are honoring the deepest truth of this entire path. Peace begins when you accept what you cannot control. And that includes other people, the past, and the moment that just arrived. But you can choose how you meet it. And that choice, made again and again in stillness, reshapes your entire life. After walking through every layer of this journey, from letting go of control to releasing hidden expectations, to meeting your emotions, your timeline, your identity, and your relationships with honesty, you can feel the truth settling deeper than thought. Peace was never something to chase. It was something that emerged the moment you stopped wrestling with life. You learned that the ego fights hardest right before letting go. You learned that tiny daily resistances drain more energy than the big battles. You learned that clinging creates the very suffering you try to avoid. You learned that powerlessness is not weakness but clarity. You learned that the body must relax for the mind to follow. You learned that people are who they are, and trying to change them only traps you. You learned that life will disappoint you, and that's what makes its beauty real. You learned that surrender is not giving up. It's choosing peace over struggle. You learn that the present moment is wiser than your fears. You learn that stillness before action is a strength most people will never master. And through all of it, a single truth echoes: peace begins the moment you stop insisting that life must bend to your expectations. This is the heart of Buddhist acceptance. Not passivity, not indifference, but the powerful, grounded, deeply awake choice to meet life as it is. If any part of this journey spoke to you, if something shifted, softened, or clicked, tell me in the comments. Tell me which lesson opened your eyes. Tell me which part of your life you're finally ready to stop controlling. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And if you want more wisdom like this, more calm in your mind, more courage in your heart, more clarity in your days, make sure you subscribe to the channel. There is so much more coming, and I want you to be here for every step of your own unfolding. A new chapter of peace is waiting for you. Take it with you. Breathe it in. Live it fully.